Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: the absolute a-hole boss who screws up an employee's life gets what he deserves. The second story: CRM leader leaves and wants to take his older computer home. IT leader rejects his request. The third story: ma'am, this is private property, not a contact zoo. The first story is entitled boss has ruined my life. Backstory: I'm an app developer that's trying to branch into project management. But a year before that, I took a break and decided to pursue my passion in baking. Unfortunately, I got into a workplace accident and injured myself pretty badly. I resigned from my kitchen work and immediately went for an app development job the next day and got hired. Cue the story. So I got hired to do an app. I was part of the design team, but development was everywhere, and I spotted several problems immediately. I brought it up to the team leader, who told me to bring it up to the boss. I did. He simply waved me off and said it wasn't a big deal, and not to change anything. So I kept quiet and went on with my work. Down the development road, all the problems I spotted came out to bite us in the A. Boss was screaming at the entire team that we were useless and that we ruined his day. The team leader was demoted, and somehow I, the newbie, was elected team leader. So I outlined a project plan, for it approved by the boss, and we started development from scratch again. We managed to fix problems and make things better, but on the day we booked the boss to pitch him the project plan, he was constantly on his phone, not paying attention to us. In the end, he just walked out on us without finishing the presentation. We pitched the exact same thing to his investors, and they were very happy. However, a couple of days later, he was screaming in my face that this wasn't what he wanted. That I effed up his baby, and that I'm a useless, worthless person. I was shocked. The team was shocked. Everything had gone well, so what was the problem? So I had the entire team sit down with him to try and drill in his brain on what he wanted. He started screaming at us that we were inciting a witch hunt on him, and that we were a disrespectful bunch. I was immediately shifted out of team lead into project management. He stressed that I was not allowed to make any design decisions. Fine. So while the development team had to start from scratch again, I met with every department, design, art, programming, marketing, to help develop a project timeline. Lo and behold, I found out that the project did not have a contract. There was no contract stating what the project is, no deliverable dates, no anything. I questioned the boss about it and he exploded on me. Said I didn't know how to run a business and that I shouldn't stick my nose where it shouldn't be. I tried to argue that I needed the deliverable dates and deadlines to plan a project timeline. He told me to just work it out for myself. I did my best. I really did, but it was horrible. He constantly demanded changes at the last minute without giving me an extension. He expects us to redesign, recode, and redraw everything from scratch at 1/10 the time perfectly. He constantly belittles me and my authority in front of the whole company. The programmers started to hate the design team for the constant changes. The art team had to crunch out art after art, with no promise of it coming to use. The design team had to constantly redesign the app to the boss's whim, all while having this imaginary deadline of his, which ends up shorter and shorter. The design team never stopped asking me for advice and kept me in the design loop. I would always give my feedback, but never my approval. Boss caught wind of this and exploded at me again for not doing my job, despite several people reminding him that he expressly told me I could not make decisions. We managed to make it somehow. We tirelessly prepared for an investor's presentation, and I think I hit it out of the park because several investors came up to congratulate me and claim that they will invest more. Boss was not too happy about this, but let it slide as he could not scream at me. This week we focused on bug fixing, so that at the end of the week we could release a test candidate for the investors to test. Investors were constantly contacting me about bugs they found. I've always replied them quickly and gotten it fixed ASAP. When the boss found out, he once again exploded at me for bug fixing. He said I should have prioritized the new features he wanted, and that I was effing up his timeline. I tried to tell him why we were doing it the way we were, but he wasn't having it. The whole office and more couldn't hear him screaming at me. I heard later that a colleague of mine went in and defended me, but it made no difference. I did not change my course. That weekend was a major pitch. If I hadn't fixed the bugs, we could have lost everything. Marketing was very grateful. Around 8 months into the year, my injuries from the previous accident got worse. I guess it was the combination of stress and long working hours. I had fractured my spine. I tried to take leave to get it checked out, but he always told me to grow up for just a little bit of pain. I tried to hold it in, but I was getting grumpy and snappy out of pain. My team understood, but boss kept saying I was disrespecting him. He wouldn't listen to anyone. Around this time, he gave me more responsibilities. From managing one project, he suddenly dumped 20 projects on me, all from different departments, and he expected me to memorize every project detail in a day. I couldn't do it. I was screamed at. Now, one of his babies was a security project. I was told to clean up the project so that it could launch ASAP. Boy, was it a cluster F. The project had nowhere near enough research to even begin prototyping, let alone selling it. But that was what the boss was doing. And to make it worse, he was getting people from simple app development to code a high-end security model marketed for being fail-safe. I spoke with the team lead, and he deflated pretty quickly and went into panic mode. He dragged me to explain to the boss, and boy, another shouting fest. Between the stress and the late hours, I finally couldn't walk. I was hospitalized and had my injury scanned. The doctors were horrified. Any moment more and my spine would completely break. They couldn't understand how I could stand the pain. So I wrote into work to ask for a medical sabbatical for 2 months, as I was entitled to heal. He wouldn't approve it, insisted I continue coming into work. Scared that I would lose my only income and my only way to pay my medical bills, I complied. But it only got worse from there. You see, the original app that I was charged was suddenly bombed. He had completely changed the whole app, and it wasn't what was presented to the investors anymore. It was a totally different beast. The investors weren't happy and pulled the plug, so boss rounded the entire team to scream at us. It was our fault. Then he proceeded to single me out and hurl abuse at me. I had costed the company millions. People are losing their jobs because of me. It was entirely my fault the project went south. And then he hit me in the back, where my fracture was. No one stood up for me. I stopped going to work. I couldn't walk anymore. The pain was too much now. I applied to the medical sabbatical again. Again, I was denied. Then the ceiling hit the fan. He forced me to resign. Forced me to write my own resignation letter, hand it in, because he couldn't fire me. I was in too much pain. I did it. The projects blew up after that. With no one managing the company, project after project failed. Without me, they didn't know how to use the software to keep track of project timelines. Deadlines were overdue. No one replied. Investors, team leads had no direction. He tried to call me back. Tried to hire me as a part-timer doing a full-time job with less than minimum wage. I was already bitter and angry. I told him to GTFO and leave me alone, but he kept calling me. My boyfriend finally had enough and threatened to file harassment charges at him. He stopped. I found out later that because of my unfair dismissal, several people tried to stand up for me, but he simply stated that I deserved it. They quit on the spot. Any others who put out protests were eventually fired. He began spreading rumors about me, saying what a disgrace I was, saying that it was all my fault. I costed the company money. I was disrespectful and rebellious. Every bad decision he made was now my fault. I couldn't get a job now. The industry in my country is small, and even though he was hated in the industry, no one wanted to risk hiring me anymore. I heard that the investors found out about my unfair dismissal. They were shocked. They questioned boss and he tried to sidestep it, but it was too late. He was forced to step down as CEO and no longer allowed to participate in design discussions. Just a few months back, the company is now declared bankrupt. The second story is, the company's best computer? That's mine. I want to take it home. I work for a smaller financial company's IT help desk. My story's about the head of the CRM. Let's call him Vince. Vince is that kind of man who will enter your personal space and will not let you leave until he told all of his problems and forces you to solve them all. Recently, we replaced some of the computers with newer ones, including his one changing the OS to Windows 10. I had to spend a lot of time with him configuring his new PC when he told me he'll leave the company in a month and he will ask the CEO for permission to buy his older PC because his one is too loud and he worked with this one for a long time and it's reliable. I encouraged him to write an email about that. You need to know that my company sells out older PCs to the coworkers if we don't use them anymore. We're keeping about 5 to 6 stronger computers if someone needs a replacement, and we sell the weaker ones. Vince asked the CEO, who told him he would give it to him with one condition. He needed to ask our IT leader first. Fueled with joy, he wrote an email with the details of the computer. My boss, the IT leader, knew that his old PC is one of the strongest in the company, so he immediately declined his request. Since that, Vince got angry at the whole IT department, claiming that we took away his computer and ruined the whole CRM with the Windows 10 update. He looks at me as some kind of soulmate since he often stops by to talk with me. He yelled at me because we will never use that PC again, and after a year we'll throw it into the trash, and he just wanted to save it. I explained to him that this is not his computer at the first place, and we will find a new use for it because I know at least 3 coworkers who are struggling with weak PCs. Then he angrily said that no one needs this strong computer because 8 GBs of RAM is too much, and no one will and could and should use that much in the company, and how my boss is doing a personal revenge against him because he told him back in the time that the IT leader is incompetent. Vince sits not far from the kitchen door. Whenever I go for a coffee, he manages to pause his work and comes after me to tell me these again and again, all of these blocking the door sometimes. I told him to speak with my manager about buying another PC if he really wants to buy, but he starts harassing me again with that I need the PC because no one else will need that here speech. As I said at the beginning, he's the typical personal space invader guy, so it's not just simply annoying and repetitive but frustrating. Once a trainee sitting next to him asked my help for solving a problem, Vince started to speak to himself loudly about how we can't do our job and just getting a high salary for ruining the company's perfectly working systems because the IT has a revenge plan against him and he will leave the company because of us. My boss blocked me from going there to solve non-critical problems while he's present. Fortunately, he will leave in 2 weeks, so I can restore my reputation within the colleagues influenced by his conspiratorial theories. And the last story is, entitled woman decides a private farm is a petting zoo. I bought a new house. Now, we originally just bought the house, but after talking with the previous owner, he offered to sell us his small farm and the animals there. He's older and really can't care for them. We're still in the process of getting all papers in order, but my partner has already started taking care of the farm. Our daughter Lily is absolutely in heaven. There's 2 new dogs that she just adores, and her favorite animal is a big draft horse that is the gentlest thing we've ever seen. I'm going to keep working from home, and my partner will be retiring way early to be a stay-at-home dad and take care of the farm. Now that's for background. The real start is coming. Not even an hour ago, we had a lovely specimen of the entitled genus basically jump the farm's fence with 7 kids in Scouts uniform. Not sure what troop. My fiance noticed them and asked what they were doing, and that the farm is private property. The woman's response was just priceless. We saw the little ducks and chickens, and we want to pet them. It's clearly a petting zoo since they're here. She pointed at Lily and I while we were brushing the horse. We tried to explain we were the owners, even though technically we're just caretakers for now, and that she was trespassing. Cue the biggest adult tantrum I heard. She demanded we let her in for free and give the kids free rides on the pony. Yeah, not gonna happen. Draft horses are giants, and while they're gentle and could technically be ridden, a fall could cause serious injury, especially on 10-ish years old kids. My partner was amazing at dealing with her and simply said she had to leave or we would call the police. She kept shrieking that she would get him fired and that she was going to post a terrible review. A few cursed words even added for dramatic effect. We were seriously about to call the police when we actually got very lucky. The old owner was bringing us some vet papers we needed to sign for the animals and saw the whole drama. He tore into her and made her leave in minutes. Then we went on with our business. My daughter, however, had the best input the whole thing. Mommy, I think that lady is strong in the dumb side. I blame her dad for that pun. Also, if anyone is curious, no, there's no petting zoos in the area we live in. Don't forget to subscribe and have a nice day.